It's my great pleasure to introduce Laura Eisenhower. She happens to be the great-granddaughter of some president. I'll let you decide which one that was. Eisenhower, obviously. And she is a cosmic alchemist, an intuitive astrologer, and so much more. Let's not waste any time. Ladies and gentlemen, Laura Eisenhower.
Hello, everybody. I have to say this is my third Free Your Mind conference, and it's one of my favorite events. I love it. I love the whole crew that puts it together, and I just want to thank them for just doing this and keeping this energy going. It's so incredibly important, particularly in this sort of world we're in, which is challenging us in a lot of ways. Beautiful challenges, though. And I'm going to kind of go into a way for us to understand our soul matrix a little bit better and the architecture of, you know, what that is and how to kind of rebuild it and reconnect so that we can start to push away the programmings, the conditionings, and the things that, you know, distract us and get in our way. It's really to kind of bring us back to center. So the way I like to kind of put it in perspective is to just acknowledge the timelines. There's the organic timeline, which is all about the inner shift and the reawakening of our divine template and our DNA potential. And this is like the reality. This is the truth. And it's almost like sort of covered up and veiled and kind of difficult for us to connect with. But it's our inner voice, it's our connection to spirit, and all these different things that help us to reconnect. And it's like it's there. We might get a little bit sidetracked. We might get, you know, knocked off course a little bit. But it's like that return to center. It's that inner like truth and foundation that doesn't expire. It's immortal. It's infinite. And we're not really able to permanently lose it, but we're certainly delayed. And you know. It's through this mind control and this manipulation that we start to operate from different instructions other than our own. And our creative channels are very powerful. When they receive instructions, they begin to manifest from those instructions. And so if we're not operating from our own instructions, connected to our dreams, our visions, and our direct connection with spirit, then we're operating from the instructions of what society is feeding us, what our parents passed down to us, and what we've inherited with a lot of the archetypal dramas of the lower creator beings. And we're just sort of generating that into reality. And that's why it just goes on from generation to generation, and it's now like fully embedded in our culture. And so they want to keep us from this, and they being what I call just beings of the negative ego, just to keep it simple. I mean, I've done a lot of presentations where I really break it down and I get very specific and it gets pretty complex. But, you know, it's kind of like a flower. You can see it, you can observe it, you can smell it and appreciate it. Or you can, you know, try and understand the biology and kind of bounce back and forth between the two. And so it's amazing because everybody in this room is, you know, aware of what's going on. Enough to say, we need to free our minds. We need to help others free their minds and not receive the instructions of helping and enabling and generating this artificial timeline. It doesn't exist unless we are part of that power to make it happen. Because we're all creative beings. We are free energy. We're this advanced technology. And so our imaginations have been captured, you know, and all sorts of things that cause us to operate not from our own authenticity and direct connect. So artificial timelines relates to negative ET agendas, government and ET treaties, and also technologies like the Nephilim reversal grid, an alien machinery that was put in place 26,000 years ago at the end of the final sinking of Atlantis. Now we're talking the root race Atlantis. There was the higher Atlantis and Lemuria and the higher dimensional energies. And basically it was to create disunity and to enslave souls. So that's kind of like heavy to start off with, like, oh, where'd that come from? There's a lot of galactic history connected to how this came about. I'm going to touch upon it. I've done other presentations where I really get into the nitty-gritty, but we don't have that much time to get into all that. So I'm going to create a little bit more clarity about what this is all about. So I would remember the name Nephilim Reversal Grid and maybe Google it to get a deeper understanding. But what it does is it affects the stargates, it affects our DNA, and because our DNA is linked to the stargates of this Earth, this technology is to make it a lot more difficult to unfold and blossom, I guess you could say, because we carry the ascension. I mean, we're seeded with it. So when we try and give ourselves sunlight and water to blossom and grow, and here we are getting sprayed and trampled on, and the weeds are overtaking us, it gets very difficult. But the seed will always remain. And that's why we keep coming back. And that's why we keep experiencing this until we realize, wait a second, I can be a master gardener. I can, focus on energetic maintenance and just make sure that this is protected. And this is where we need to protect ourselves. We're sovereign beings. We are, this incredible potential that's unfolding. So, okay, we're getting sprayed, but we can shield ourselves and understand that as we expand in this time, we are working with different physics that are able to transmute and alchemize these things. It's the programming that keeps us in a lower density, which makes it very difficult to process this stuff. And that's why there's programmings. If it was enough to just spray us, they would just spray us. It takes us having to bite the bait, watching the TV, watching these false flag events, going and voting for people like Hillary Clinton that should be on America's Most Wanted instead of running for president. And I have it out for that woman so bad right now. It's just like, and so we bite the bait. It's like, mouse, cheese, trap, and then getting sprayed, and we're just getting further and further and more enmeshed in it. But once we break the programming and realize, wait a second, what is this box? Who are these people? And we step away, we're not, as affected by these assaults. And we have to realize we're very advanced. Spirit, our connection to spirit has a powerful ability to handle all this. And our DNA, as it unfolds and upgrades, can handle all this. So that's a good thing. So negative ET agenda, right. Okay, well, there's plenty of benevolent beings who have come here to help. I look at it like the immune system of the body, If we are out of balance, if we are, being attacked, it's a lot easier if we don't have the awareness of our immune system. Well, we do have that awareness, but it's impossible to heal if we are continually trashing our bodies and we expect that something's just going to magically heal us. We have to make an agreement. We have to say, okay, I want to get better, so I'm going to put good food in my body, I'm going to shift my belief systems, and I'm going to tell the immune system, I'm going to meet you halfway. I'm going to make an agreement to allow you to do your job. Then all of a sudden, it's like it starts happening. Same thing with benevolent beings. If we stop trashing the sacred energies of our experience and exploiting them or allowing our negative ego to persist, if we stop allowing and enabling these dark agendas, or if we, remove ourselves from kind of the blame game where it's them and then there's us, and we take more responsibility for our own ego, we're going to change the whole game. We have to step up, just like with our health. And then the immune system says, okay, I got the rest of this now. And so when we say, I want to be on the path, I want to be on the organic ascension timeline, I want to heal, I want to transform, I want to have harmony with my friends and loved ones, I want to thrive, that simple agreement is enough, because our choices and our actions and our words will support that. So we have to be consistent and continue to remind us so that we're operating from those instructions. And it's not about perfection, it's about holding the hand of that agreement and just being true to it, just like a relationship. You don't have to be perfect, but there's certain things that might cross the boundary and create a lesson that's necessary to rebalance. We can call it karma, or we can just see it as, a balancing act connected to these cosmic laws. So mind control on a massive scale. We're getting hit from every angle since birth. It's just like, welcome to the world, and we scream as we come out, and immediately it's just like, we're bombarded. And government, religion, culture, patriarchy, masculine and feminine distortions embedded in our culture. And even if we don't feel religious, we're still dealing with, like, the Vatican. We're still dealing with these enormous power structures that create either almost a turnoff from God or, like, Christ energy because religion ruined it, or, we get sucked up into it, or we're rebelling from it, or we're limited by it. And it's just like, let's just step away and recognize the temple, the direct connection, and how it's already set up for us, to really nurture our spirit connection and how to ground it in the physical. So, it's frightening and difficult to, see what's going on. The more that gets exposed, it's like the largest spiritual institution is rampant with pedophilia. People don't quite understand yet that when you're in a confessional, you're probably dealing with somebody that actually you should be maybe hearing a confession from instead of the other way around. And it's just like, how much more wacky can this get? Until it's just like the light bulb comes off. And so, of course, our food is altered and all these different things to not, allow us to be healthy enough to have that clarity. Our third eye, our pineal gland, and everything like that, is compromised. But consciousness is the most powerful thing. It can upgrade DNA, it can shift energy, it can transmute things. And so sometimes we think, I've got to make sure that I have green foods and supplements. And yes, that supports and helps, but we have to realize our own natural sun energy, our own divine essence is the greatest nutrient ever. It's filled with vitamins and, just all sorts of things. That's why there's breatharians. How are they able to do that? It's like, it's just that connection. People have had past lives, and I was told I had a past life where I didn't need anything. I was just nurtured by spirit, and that was enough. I was like, okay, can you download those memories into me? Because, Whole Foods is really expensive, and I want to eat well. So we have to understand that, there are things to support us, but we have to remember the power of our consciousness, too, and know that we can, nurture that and work with that and not be, so bent on having, it all, having to be perfect. Because we're going to slip, and, we have to, be able to transmute. We have to be able to, move through some of these things. And we always take a step back. Sometimes we're in a deep sensitivity. We're chemically sensitive, and then something catapults us into greater strength. So there's nothing wrong with going through years and years of what might feel like a struggle or a dark night of the soul or a breakdown of the body. It's the ability to assimilate wisdom and gain the message that's going to help us to, bounce back. So election time. We must educate the world about the crimes of, people like Hillary Clinton. I could just come up with a list. But I have a lot of attention and focus on this, and my mission right now is to spread Kathy O'Brien's books, to follow the campaign trail, and to make sure people know who she really is so they think twice so that we don't have this election in the way that it's all set up, because that election is going to make or break so much about the global timeline on a massive scale, but it doesn't affect the people that are free of the programming. It's got to stop, and I'm not groomed to be a politician. I'm an Eisenhower. I haven't yet voted for a president. I'm waiting for the real deal. And the real deal to me is everybody in this room. We're all leaders. We're all here to create change. I'm not going to count on one person sitting there in the Oval Office, feeding us a bunch of hope. We have to address this on a personal level. We have to all take the initiative, find our soul family, find our passions and purpose, and do the inner work to clear ourselves of whatever's getting in the way. And these systems are just keeping all this alive. And so election trail and all this stuff, I'm going to, do my best with, trying to get this info out. Because we have to realize when somebody like her writes a book, she's been, I think people know who Kathy O'Brien is, under severe mind control, MK Ultra, and under these abuses. During the time that book came out was probably when the Monica Lewinsky trial was going on, just so that nobody really gives that attention, and everybody else is dealing with this soap opera scandal. So weather modification, chemtrails, and the antenna that it's trying to grow in us and the nanoparticles is so that humans can become weapons. I'm already seeing this where people just get triggered and all of a sudden it's just like they do a 180-degree turn and it's like, who is this person? And what are they operating from? It's getting, kind of heavier and worse for those who refuse to wake up, and people are breaking the programming by allowing their consciousness to expand beyond these things. If you're conscious, and say you do grow an antenna, I don't think it's going to work. We'll neutralize that. It's like, remember those things in the 80s, the little doogly boppers? It's like, for some it might work, for others, none of us are getting dumbed down here. And we have to understand the alien machinery and implants and anything that might be getting in the way can be neutralized by our ability to stay consistent and strong with spirit. That electrical light energy that comes straight from source can fry all of this because this is all electrical manipulation. So much of these darker agendas originated even before our current planet was fully formed, and that are now here on Earth, as this is the second creation after intense galactic wars and the downfall of advanced civilizations. So we are dealing with higher Earth energies, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, the original Atlantis and Lemuria. We can see it like the right and left brain, the right and left hemispheres of the brain, the masculine and feminine imbalance, and then the polarization of the masculine, created this downfall. But many souls ended up falling that had nothing to do with that. And so the whole concept of being trapped here or being a light worker and being contracted to be here for a while to help the human race is a big thing. We hear a lot of people, I don't belong here, and like this place is just, it's like none of us belong in the Matrix. And some are more aware of it than others, but we have ancient memories. We're galactic beings. We've chosen to occupy these vessels, and we come from different stories and different timelines and different experiences, and choose this to reach a pretty similar goal, except for those that want to maintain control. So they have created the control system that we are now in to ensure we stay limited to a 3D existence. Because when we collapsed in density because of this imbalance that happened, all of a sudden the harmonic universe of dimensions 4, 5, and 6 ended up in harmonic universe 1, dimensions 1, 2, and 3. And so it seems that this is a 3D experience, but it's only the limitation of the matrix system of control. In actual fact, we're multidimensional beings. This Earth is a multidimensional planet. And, but the limitation is where the mind control comes in. And, but it was seeded, as an ascension planet. We were seeded as ascension beings, except this time it would happen over the course of time so that we wouldn't make the same mistakes as before, but the infiltrations of these control groups and the grip that they had on the stargates and these alien technologies have made it difficult. So when we think of the mythologies or the symbolism of the tree of good and evil, we're seeing a contrast and a differentiation, and with our free will choices we can begin to decide, okay, now I get it. Thanks, evil. Okay, we get it. The good evil part, you've done really good in showing that, okay, evil exists. And I was in denial a little bit about it, at first growing up, and I knew there was an imbalance, major imbalance. I could feel the programmings and this and that, but really lifting up the curtain, I never expected to discover what I have, and I think we're all in a little bit of shock, but it's a time of liberation, and to just say, hey, this is good news. It is for me because I never paid attention in school. And that the labels of, you have ADD, attention on different dimensions. And all the projections and just the parents, you're just like, my child's crazy. It's like, it wears on you after a while, and then it's just like, oh my God, this is all BS? Like, pat myself on the back. It's like, I knew it. Okay. So they've, to limit us to this 3D existence, and also so that healing doesn't take place for the negative ET groups. They don't want to heal. They want to be doing this. They compromise their DNA and want to police this matrix energy. And they want to maintain power through the monarchies, the Illuminati, and also so we can't achieve true spiritual marriage. That's the biggest threat to them. And the true spiritual marriage is within, of course. It's reuniting the masculine and feminine, understanding that they're in a dance together. They flow together, they work together. But we've been taught about this power struggle, this competition, because this false patriarchal system is, this imbalance. So anything that's imbalanced is going to attract germs, parasites, just like us when we're out of balance. When we come into balance, everything starts to fall into place. When the masculine and feminine are in balance, we generate the miracle vibration that is always accessible. When we're out of balance, we birth the negative ego, and we always end up just sort of from one extreme to the other, maybe feeling insecure and not worthy, or maybe feeling kind of full of ourselves, or maybe going back, to these different extremes until we find that center point of that union where it's about love and something much higher than the ego stuff. Now, it's not about ego being bad. When I talk about ego, it's the negative ego. We have to watch out for, because ego is a powerful vehicle. But when it serves and is in alignment with spirit and that balance is there, it can heal anything. And we call it miracles, but it's actually very organic and natural. It's just, sometimes the things that fall into place and feel very natural, we're shocked by, I can't believe it, and it's like, no, that's actually the way it's supposed to be. So, The ruling elite have devised chemtrails as a means of covertly microchipping us all in order to create antennas inside of us via nanotechnology so as to make us totally controllable via a psycho-civilized, electrically mind-controlled society. Using HAARP microwave antennas, the National Security Agency can establish a seamless computer link direct to our brains, but first they're using chemtrails to get the nanoparticles into us, which are reassembling in our bodies to form the antennas. Like I said, there's something that I'm going to talk about in a second, and it's an override frequency. It's when one recognizes that these are lower dimensional technologies and manipulations. A lot of it's coming through our TV. A lot of it's getting fed to us from government. Once we just stop connecting with that programming, none of this stuff, really matters. And remember those shows like Ripley's Can't Believe It or Believe It or Not? And people are eating light bulbs, and it's mind over matter. It's like, I'm not saying let's practice, but it's like, we're moving into this new paradigm that's not so much about this new agey stuff. It's really about understanding that spirit holds dominion over matter. That's the real truth. And we've been taught that physicality holds dominion. That's why we struggle with survival issues, health issues, questions about money, and are we going to be okay? And the new paradigm is about learning to let go of that. So embrace the events where things get ripped away from you, or you might lose that job, or a relationship doesn't work out, and recognize that this could be the biggest blessing, because it's like you're expanding into something else. And the synchronicities will always line up to keep you on a magical path. But if you are in victim consciousness, or you think something's wrong, or you failed, you're only going to be operating from those instructions, and you're going to keep yourself in a loop, and you're going to be stuck. And culture is set up to not allow us these initiations. They take advantage of it. So when we have a breakdown, before we have a breakthrough, and before reaching the breakthrough, we're running to the doctor and we're getting on meds, or we're dealing with physical symptoms we don't understand, and we're taking on labels and diagnoses that separate us further from ourselves, and we give that power to somebody else. When that is the greatest intelligence and guide that we could possibly have, is our pain body, our symptoms, and what life shows us. So we cannot deny weather modification and the spraying of our skies. Really, all you need to do is look up at the sky to know that something is very wrong. We are also dealing with genetically modified foods, false flags in the news, media control, mind control, possible fake alien invasion scenarios. And my whole thing is we've already been invaded, but at the same time, we invade ourselves constantly. If we take away the complexity and just look at it like we're in imbalance and the negative ego is ruling the planet, we can ask ourselves, are we feeding that, or are we resolving it? What part do we play to affect the change? So we've already been invaded, but we invade ourselves when we wake up in the morning some days and we decide to not be loving and on a path of unifying, and we start to project our negative ego onto others. It's like that's an example of where we've inherited this kind of programming. And it's in our life and in our daily experience from the minute we wake up to the minute we fall asleep tonight, where we can change the planet by being conscious with our communication, conscious with each other, conscious with what's going on, so that we can get the messages, not from the television, but from our higher self, from our intuition and the wisdom of nature, and what we manifest and what that reflects back. So the threatening control collapse of the economy is a potential martial law. That's breathing down our neck all the time. FEMA camps and the chipping of civilians. And I don't feel that any of this is going to manifest. Maybe for some, they have to experience somewhat of a nightmare scenario to just really have the point hit home, so that they come back and maybe enter a different point in the timeline based on a revelation they had by being compromised. The thing is, we're from the past, from the future. We can journey on these timelines, and it's not like a fixed destination where we're either going to be enslaved or not. It's either going to be ascension or enslavement. It's a personal journey. The revelations and epiphanies we have, the breakthroughs we have, and everything that we process and start to become aware of shifts and shapes our reality, and maybe where we're going to go the next time around, And so we have to understand, there's so much going on in the cosmos, and there's one other planet that I think is in as bad a shape as this one or worse. And I was working with a medium who said, we can't even find out the name because all the empaths are going to end up incarnating here like they did here and get really pissed off because, sometimes having a huge heart means, and that one, it's going to be addressed in a different way. So a little bit about the ancient history. When we existed in higher dimensions, and I'm really just kind of breaking it down and just can't really expand on it too much, but Tiamat, known as the ancient primordial dragon queen, cosmic dragon queen, basically embodied as a planetary consciousness, got struck by Marduk. Okay, the story behind all that and all the different pieces I can't really get into, but it's based on the fact that we're in a free will universe. So as things step down in dimension and there's more of a differentiation between the male and female, based on, experience and curiosity and experimentation, one is saying, okay, well, ego is born from self. What can the self do? What can it get away with? Pushing the boundaries and it's all about this human management system because life was seated in the time matrix. And so not all the energies were in agreement to each other, and everything got out of whack with these galactic wars because the beings and the founder races that were helping to seed life in the time matrix started to fall away from connection with source and started to think of the self, service to self. What can I do to serve myself? And it's something we have to kind of go through and recover from to kind of get it out of our system. In some way, if we're in a free will universe, everything under the sun is probably going to manifest until we get back to center. And then we integrate and we restore and we invite back into us all these fragmentations. So it's no longer about Lucifer over there, and all these different things. It's about them all coming back to center with the driver being the higher consciousness that is able to put all these archetypes back into harmony. But when we let somebody that is a fragmentation run the show, then we suppress our ability to connect. Okay, so Tiamat got struck by Marduk. This was the beginning of real imbalance and patriarchy. Negative ego, service to self-orientation, destruction of advanced civilizations, Tara in those dimensions 4, 5, and 6, free will universe. We sank into a lower density. So here's a quote from the Ascension Glossary of energeticsynthesis.com, my dear friend Lisa Renee, whose work is just like goosebumps, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's writing all this because I've been saying, similar things, and she just puts it in really great terms. The female consciousness of the planet Tiamat was Sophionic, and when we talk about Sophia, we're talking about the feminine goddess energy, and it's a part of all of us. It's our divine feminine inheritance. It's in men, it's in women, and that's a huge part of who we are as creators. The masculine and feminine are in a dance, so as the womb energy, the mother births the seeds of higher consciousness or thought, and that's how the masculine and feminine work together. But the female was compromised, which means that the womb energy was birthing all sorts of things that this explosion was the origins of why archons and all this other stuff came about. So the female consciousness of the planet Tiamat was Sophionic. So when she exploded, her consciousness descended into a collective form body, which is known as the Akamoth. Akamoth is a name for the wounded goddess fragmented body parts, which were collected and trapped by the negative alien agenda and fallen angelics in the 2D underworld of the planetary body to incubate or impregnate archonic creations. So we've had Tiamat explode, we've had Marduk explode. It's like, oh my God, whoops, the planet exploded. Now what is it? The asteroid belt. We're dealing with all these fragmentations that have archetypal energies. If we look at the tarot deck, there's 78 cards. If we look at the zodiac, we have a lot of different pieces, and they are somewhat fragmented when we don't think about the whole. When we think God's over here, the devil's over here, good, bad, duality, we're separating ourselves from our own light and dark, and we're connecting with somebody else's instructions. Our true light and dark work together like the masculine and feminine, which is the whole birth thing, and the darkness is the rich soil, that takes seeds and grows life. When this exploded, all these fragmentations caused us to, feel like this disconnect that's been fed on ever since. And this is why the feminine, plays a role to heal this, because Tiamat was an extension of her. And so when this body exploded, the goddess journey shifted, but in these higher dimensions, it's like that's the home base, is that divine blueprint of the Trinity and sacred union that is what always gets returned to, but creation has to be dealt with because these events took place and they manifested. So archons end up getting created because the womb energy is now open to the energies of imbalance of the masculine and feminine, and so whatever has an agenda that uses that space, that's where all these other forms came about that seem to be, negative, but they're operating from the negative ego mentality, and that's how they hook into us, and that's why they're also kind of our teacher. Everything that's ever attacked me or gotten in my way, I'm just like, thank you very much, because it doesn't scare me. It actually empowers me, because it reminds me of my truth, and it reminds me of actually what's really going on here, And I use it as a tool. I use chemtrails as a tool. I look up, and instead of getting pissed off, I just say, thank you for reminding me that you're so damn intimidated by us that you need to compromise us like this. And guess what? It's not going to work. And enough of us And there's so many of us that that's true for, that we're holding space right now for others to catch up. So instead of plugging into the programming, they can see like, these people are thriving, they're unifying, they're coming together. And the distinction between those that are operating from this mind control, it's like when we put our hand out and say, we support you, we love you, we want to help. It's like, it's not so lonely. I have so many clients who are breaking through programming, who are ready to, who have that moment or revelation of something's not right here, and they're crying out. And that's that moment you grab their hand and say, okay, I'm here. And this is what we have to do as we unify, is to assist those souls. And then that number will increase, and the tipping point, happens. I believe it already has. So the Gnostics called the estrangement of the being of Anthrosophia from the divine Sophia a death. They called it Achamoth, the death of the Sophia. Lucifer was known in the mysteries to have killed the Sophia, but death is cyclical and is born again, association with Venus and transits. It's funny that Lucifer is connected to Venus and so is Christ Sophia. So when you think about it, why sit around and get pissed off at whatever deity or whatever story, or try and figure out what the truth is or not, when it comes to things that have been rewritten and sort of distorted, when we can just simply see it as, okay, let's just understand it maybe and take the names away for a second. There is an energy in this free will universe that was, this light of sort of like egoic energy, and there was, this imbalance that like caused a sinking in density and the explosion of planets that yanked on the Sophia energy and basically created sort of this death. And the whole idea is that in that death, these control systems would operate and take advantage of the vulnerability of a portion of the Godhead not fully being there, because it's a portion of the divine Sophia. And then through the energy of Venus, the reason it's alchemical is because to go into the death or the dark night of the soul and come back out again is to complete the cycle. So the architecture of our soul is that our negative ego might lead us astray. We might fall. We might, suppress our divine feminine energy and have that part of us sort of die. But then when we go into the underworld and we sort of, face all this and purge it and clear it, then we rise again, and we're rising as the Christ Sophia energy of the masculine and feminine in union again. So like in a given day, I think we go through this over and over again. When we apologize to our loved ones for, maybe, acting in a less than desirable way, and we rebalance and reharmonize, we're resurrecting. And so this blueprint of just sort of death, rebirth, and the purification of the negative ego and the realignment with balance is what we do when we say, I'm sorry, I love you, or we make our intentions clear, or we, self-correct when necessary, and we focus on the inner work. This is the architecture of the soul. And the Venus energy and the Venus transits are part of the larger picture and how everything is being weaved back. So Sophia never really died. It's just going into the underworld and coming back up again is this global alchemy. And so this is what we go through. And we are representations of that. And if we get distracted away from it, that's when we start to go to the doctor and give our power away and forget, the necessity of coming into this experience and learning, but completing that journey and returning to balance. So as a new world was forming, Sophia morphed into the physical planet to offset what they have been trying to do to the human race. So as the Sophia energy died, the consciousness didn't, and so it morphed into the physical planet. It seeded this physical planet with a 13-dimensional core. This planetary body is not a 3D planet. It's a 13-dimensional seeded ascension planet. And so it's kind of like, it's all a part of this bigger agreement, that, sort of this death based on these galactic wars and this disunity that was happening was a part of the rebirth and being able to bring it back. And so this is what happens when we die, we come back. We can have a number of deaths and still maintain this physical body and be that much stronger and that much more powerful. And so when one's interacting with the physical, the death and the rebirth, these cycles will start to spin faster and faster and faster, and we're not going to be trudging through the underworld. It's just going to be like an instant thing. And so this sort of sends a new energy. And the Anunnaki and just, the pantheons, how the Trinity, started to split into many, many archetypal things is based on all the different things that, became reactive to this opposition and duality. Okay, and I know that sounds a little complex, but it'll make more sense in a second. So 13D monadic core, it's the mother arc energy connecting us to the Godhead. So this planet, is all a part of us returning home. This is the gift from Sophia. And our own divine and feminine inheritance to go into this experience and and come back again to where we began, but in a whole new way. And when we think of the number 13, it's the death card in the tarot deck. And death is a portal. And that's why when we get really good at death and rebirth within one physical body, the necessity of losing the physical ceases. The only reason the body dies is because a programming we're holding that we're so attached to needs to die. And our consciousness and the body can't really work together anymore. And then we advance ourselves, we come back, we go through new experiences, and finally, the intelligence of the body is matching the intelligence of the consciousness that we're now aligned with because we've moved past the programming, and the necessity of death ceases. And that's when we lift the veil between life and death. So through all these different cycles, eventually the veils get thinner and thinner and thinner. But if we go to the TV and we go to the government, that's why it's taking thousands of years and we keep coming back. It's like, this might have only needed to take like 3 or 4 times, but it's like these distractions just make it a lot longer. 13 families. It's funny that the Illuminati have the 13 families, and then the number 13 is taboo everywhere else. 12 zodiac signs, not 13 when they're supposed to be 13. Nobody really follows the 13-moon calendar. We're dealing with a 12-calendar system. They don't even have a 13th floor. So it's like, okay, that's the Illuminati have captured that number. It's like to cut us off from that idea of death and rebirth. They don't want us to go through the underworld and recover. If we're going to go into the underworld, they want to disempower us so that we rely on the system, so that we feel suicidal and we feel it's such a loss that we don't know how to rebirth. They want to trap us in the birth canal because we all go through death cycles, but their whole deal is, okay, let's stop them there when they're vulnerable and they're freaked out. And then let's throw these programmings, and at their most vulnerable, they're going to give their power away. Same thing with Uranus. When an old structure needs to die and a new one needs to be built, let's take advantage of their nervous breakdown and start to, do this so that they never have the breakthrough. Now it's time for us to collectively come together and complete these initiations, understanding that that's what helps us to bypass all this other crap and get our planet back and get ourselves back. So it is an ascension planet under attack, no different than us walking into a room of a lot of viruses and germs. Are we shielded? Are we balanced? Is our immune system functioning? Is the question. That's where we need to operate from when we are addressing, like, what can we do? How can we protect ourselves? And then just be the example. Okay, so the Nag Hammadi says she morphed from a pure energetic state, stellar plasma, into the material body of the earth. Hence her story describes the origins of the earth. And it's this planetary body we're dealing with, which is seeded with this 13-dimensional core. And it's like a seed that you throw into the ground. And its potential you can't destroy, but you can certainly, tamper with it and mess with it. But like I said, the intelligence remains in the seed. The planet was created to assist in our liberation as an ascension planet, seeded to unfold over the course of time. The 12 tribes got seeded, angelic humans, and then the infiltration of controller groups, and that's the artificial matrix. The 2 main controller groups are the sons of Belial and the Black Suns. Sophia would have to come into the physical and create alchemy through the Venus transits, and this is all of us incarnating and waking up and understanding that we, are on a particular spiritual path to assist in this process. And that's where our oneness is. But oneness to me is diversity and harmony. It's like the web of life. And I say this a lot, like, a dolphin knows to be a dolphin, a squirrel knows to be a squirrel, doesn't really question it. But us humans, we're so damn confused. And there's so many things saying, you need to be like this, you need to be like that. Religion, government, control, TV, molding us, molding our children. And it's like, the more authentic we are, the more genuine we are, that's the prerequisite to unity consciousness. How can we possibly unify if we're coming together with programmings and issues and ego imbalances? The whole deal is that we become authentic. We appreciate the individuality, which is maybe the Lucifer part of it, but we redeem it from getting all bent out of shape and into service to self by honoring the fact that once we find that, then we come and unify. We create harmony. We create partnership. It's not about selfishness. And the negative ego expires, and so individuality doesn't mean selfishness. It means the understanding of the self, self-awareness. And usually a person who's not self-aware is operating from the negative ego. And so, we complete the cycle. I lived in the wilderness for years, and so that really helped get away from all this so I could see the contrast. And I went right from D.C., I don't think anybody really knew I was in Eisenhower, but once they did, it was just like, I was dressing in D.C. like I was about to climb a mountain. People are like, you live in a city, and it's like, it looks like you just went hiking. And I was like, I didn't hike anywhere, but I know that that's where I'm headed, into the mountains. And I lived in the wilderness for a couple years, and it taught me everything. My education is nature, watching the cycles, watching the intelligence of the web of life and the interconnectedness of that mandala, knowing that that's embedded in our soul. that's an outer reflection of what we have on the inside. We're earth, air, fire, water. We have to honor all elements within ourselves. When you have fire and you want to get angry, get freaking angry. If you want to cry, freaking cry. And don't let anybody tell you you're out of balance, because what's imbalanced is denial, holding on to stuff, shoving it under the carpet, and just watching something and becoming a zombie. One of my favorite quotes is, "It's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society." So if we're having a hard time, maybe you're doing something right because you're damn sensitive and you are being affected by all this. But then let the warrior self come in and say, hey, I'm going to change this. But just because, when we see people doing really well but they're not very awake, it's like eventually that's going to, hit a wall. So Sophia would have to come in, and that's, just our recognition of the divine feminine and just this whole path. As the false father god religions were the outer facades, and the negative ETs were creating negative reversal and vampiric technology to keep a portion of her body exiled. Sophia came in to journey in the underworld to reclaim her many aspects, the mother womb that turned to hell. So in a way, this is how my path has been, and what was always sort of communicated to me from my intuition. It's time to purify hell. Because hell, is the mother womb. It's just, there's controller agendas, there's patriarchy, there's dark technologies. And so when we're here, we feel like, yeah, this definitely feels pretty hellish. But when we go into that zone of okay, well, let's go in there. One of my other favorite quotes is, religion is for people that fear hell, spirituality is for those that have been there and come back. So we all have had to face hell in some sort of way. And so my journey was, okay, bring it on. Let's just go right in there. And the things that we don't realize is we fear our power, we fear our darkness, and something else is running the show. So we have to go in there and say, hey, that's not going to happen anymore. This is my creative power. This is my creative energy, and it's got to operate from, one's own direct connection to spirit, and not this imbalance. So the Belial sons, Anunnaki human hybrids, including the Nephilim. There are many types of these extraterrestrial groups and races. Some have lab-engineered bodies. The negative alien agenda is a term used which includes negative alien factions, which include Anunnaki, those in the Black Sun program, the Alpha Draconis, Orion group, Greys, Zeta, the Thoth group, Draconians, also called reptilians. These groups create the artificial timelines. They use many technological manipulations and methods to mind control and negatively manipulate the future direction of the human race. The Zetas and reptilians are known to want to stop our ascension through misaligning the earth grids. And, obviously that has a direct impact on us. And so, if you feel an attack, if you feel something throw you off balance, we've got fire, we've got the Mars energy, and we can just, just get ourselves in that zone of, I don't think so. I was so rebellious growing up that it's if I felt an attack and I felt something trying to control me, I would go ballistic. And I was just and there's still holes in the wall, in my mom's basement, from where, where I was just roar, and I was having all these incredible Hulk moments, and I didn't hurt anybody, but it was just I'm going to blast that stuff so far out of my zone. I don't care how pissed I'm going to get, but that fire is a fire of transmutation, passion, purpose, and it's just nobody's going to get in here. We have to understand that we're temples. You have to have a security guard. No vandals allowed, and we have to protect our space. And if you feel sweet and you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, I came in with a very sweet heart, but this place is a boot camp to become a bitch, and I'm fine with it. And it's you misunderstand me, it's okay, because I know my heart intention, and it's just it's fine. So the Roman Catholic Church attempted to replicate the divine female image. Reversals of the pentagram are all about symbolizing matter having control and dominion. This way, the false king and lower creator god, demiurge, can control the power sources on the planet as they access the dark version of the mother enslaved in the bowels of the earth when needed. Baphomet was created from the body of the Achamoth. Through its worship and feeding, this aspect of Sophia is held hostage. This is the divine feminine exile within all and on earth. I mean, it's proof if they're trying to control nature, they're trying to control, our creativity and our power. And so this is what happens when we are fractured and fragmented, and why trauma-based mind control is the method used for control. We are handling the energies of Lucifer, rebellion, and demiurge with the goddess Christ consciousness. Christ Sophia is the blueprint. Anything else represents sort of an imbalance. But it's a part of the architecture. It's a part of the story. We just have to include all the characters. It's not about picking this aspect of self and that aspect of self, or denying a part of who we are. We're all of it, but we have to decide who's in the driver's seat, though. I think the best person to take the helm in the wheel would be, our integrity, our higher self, and being conscious. The rest of it, it's in there, but it shouldn't be in charge, like I said. So the mother arc is one with the 0 point. It overrides all female principal archetypes of pain or victimization. Mother arc is the returning sound principle of the Godhead, bringing the female wisdom back to the planet by reclaiming her brain, logos, and reclaiming her offspring. She is the override frequency for the damage and the protector of all indigo ray children on Earth. So when we talk about the return of the divine feminine, we might think that it means just like, women, feminism and this and that, and it's like, it's so much deeper than that. It's for everybody. It's for men. It's for us really connecting to the planet. And it's not about, a female figure over here or over there. It's something that we're all, working to reconnect with, because even though the grids are being misaligned, when we get this energy back, we are actually flooding the nervous system of this planet with our presence. When we're not in our bodies, something else is easily in there. And so this whole process of alchemy has to do with regrounding and anchoring. Ascension doesn't mean floating away. It means getting really grounded into the core seed of this 13-dimensional planet and expanding, and restoring the tree of life template, which has a root system and has branches. With the tree of duality, our DNA is compromised, and we are very ungrounded, and we're dealing with this mind control system that we're trying to break free of. The minute we break free, we are on our way to restoring our DNA in the tree of life template, and we are becoming an agent of ascension. We carry the ascension codes, and we share that. So the destruction of Tiamat is synonymous with the destruction of sacred marriage, the destruction of the Heros Gamos, thus splitting apart the consciousness of Christ Sophia within us. So Christ would have to come into the earth plane to reconnect with the goddess Earth and help her to heal and to share the template of sacred union in the world. This takes place in our own life with our inner masculine and feminine and how we handle or redeem the damage of our own negative ego. The technologies they use further challenge us, though, and so attacks are a constant and the programmings are in everything: media, government, entertainment industry, and all institutions of power. So we have to think about it like, if we're locked into that and we don't realize it, we're not going to think about this sort of stuff. But when we're saying, I want to awaken, I'm trying to process conspiracy, I want to try and understand what's ahead, I want to know if I'm going to be okay, all we need to think about is, these principles that are already built into us, that we've already inherited. But we have to know that, we're writing the rest of the script. And it's the choice to, I'm going to get in there in a second. Okay, matrix programmings. We have forgotten that union is about returning to God's source. It has been replaced with sexual desires disconnected from love, addiction, and the superficial connections that are based on parasitic, negative, alien agendas that many have fallen into the trap of. It's about sacred union, the alchemical marriage. This can heal our DNA and upgrade us and secure us on the positive timeline. So it's that focus of, okay, I'm going to keep my negative ego in check. I'm not going to allow my ego to suppress my inner feminine. I'm going to allow my inner feminine to be in balance so that that miracle energy can manifest. And I'm going to remove myself from people that hold me in that lower vibration, or I'm going to refuse to match it and invite people to match me instead. And it's a simple agreement. It's a simple statement of devotion of this journey. And the alchemical marriage is when we're not with the false step-parent, the a-hole that's trying to run the show that we don't realize we're completely plugged into, and saying, he's out of here. Let's get back to the real partner and what's truly who we are. And we have to unplug from this matrix to find it, and that's about as simple as it gets. And whatever discomfort comes along with it, whatever breakdowns, you'll have a breakthrough. Whatever death, you will be rebirthed. Whatever you think is just so incredibly uncomfortable about it, you will make it through. My life path is all about doing sessions and helping people. Because when I was going through the underworld labyrinth stuff, I said, if I make it out, I'm going to devote my life for supporting people when they're on that journey. I can't do it for them, but I will remind them they're not alone. And it's a powerful initiation, and it's a beautiful thing. And I was like, if I even live to tell the tale, the things that I just said, I'm like, it's going to be more than a miracle, because I was just like, there's no way I'm going to physically make it. And I didn't care, because I have no fear of death. It was just like, I don't think, there's just no way. There's just no way. And I would just hear this voice like, you're almost done, And I would just remind myself, it's just another day at the office. Okay, so-and-so tried to kill me. Okay, this person became a robot and strangled me. Okay, that's great. It's just another day at the office. I can handle it. And it's just day after day for 20 years, 22 years, I don't even know. just crying every day and just freaking out and like living this double life. And like people are like, you're so out there. And like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what am I supposed to say? I'm clearing inorganic entities from wormholes, because that is what I was doing. But it's just, and it's basically like saying to the negative alien program, is he's saying, you know what? You're evicted. You're not allowed in my chakras. You're not allowed in my consciousness. And when we all do that, what happens to the earth? It responds to us. And whatever machinery they're using to control the stargates is disabled by the power of our consciousness. And I was getting this, but it was like a double life. It was just like, it was easier to play the F up, in the family, like, oh, Laura's just got problems. And it was easier than to try and explain to anybody what the hell was really going on. And then I got really used to being the effed up kid. And then I was like, okay, felt a little bit lost for a little bit, but now they see that I'm happy and I'm thriving. Now they're interested in what I'm doing. Now the Eisenhowers support me on this path. How the hell did that happen? I mean, it's understandable, because like awesome. He was a spirit guide and still is. I mean, psychics have seen him in my space, and I found I was a spirit guide to him. At least somebody told me, but whatever. I feel very linked to him, and but it's like, it's almost deprogrammed, where maybe some of the Eisenhower family was being led into, maybe it's about this. It must be about that. Maybe I should be doing this. And it's like, there's acknowledgement now, because they're like, whatever we thought she was crazy about, she's actually getting healthier. She's actually not drinking anymore. She's actually creating community. So something must be right. So just do it. Who cares what anybody thinks? They'll catch up with it later when they see you happy and thriving. But if you keep walking around in pain and carrying the burden of their ignorance and mistakes in your space, and I'm not talking about me with my family, but if you carry that around and you're half crippled and you feel like you're dying every day, just because you don't want to set yourself free because you need somebody else's approval, then you're slowing yourself down. I look at us like zoo animals born into captivity, but some of us have a deep connection with our natural habitat. Most humans can't even comprehend it. And so we come and help to try and liberate them, but they don't want to listen. It's like, I like the zoo cage. I like, being fed, this rancid meat and not being able to run in the wild. I like the fact that my hair is falling out. I like all this. It's just, and so we're sitting here and we're like taking on those symptoms, and they're like, okay, yeah, we're degenerating right there with you. And it's like, but we have the key. Does anybody care? No, a lot of people don't care, because they're plugged into this other stuff that even if they had it in their hand, they wouldn't use it. So we got to get ourselves out and leave footprints now, and leave a little trail and say, you know what? You have all the information on the internet. You have the ability to experience your life path to determine what choices you want to make. But I think it's time for us to not put ourselves on the line anymore, but to guide in a different way. And this is what the new paradigm's about. So, and we've done enough, of nurturing and giving a lot of our life force to help awaken others. But we got to go through the gateways now. We're in a very powerful peak cycle. So focusing on the self in the same way we go and vote. This is why I don't vote. I vote for me. I vote for you. I vote for Gaia. So that's my focus. That's what I believe in. And we got to move through the initiations and be real with our process, And I use the word victim, and I kind of feel bad about that, because if you're going through a tough time and anybody calls you a victim for it, tell them to F off. I'm sorry. It's just like, allow yourself to be where you're at. Find people who support you and love you. And maybe, after a while, if you're persisting in a belief and you're being stubborn, they might say, okay, victim consciousness. But let's be kind and gentle. We are rehabilitating each other. It's our support and unification that's doing it. Nobody else is going to do it. And we have what it takes. So there's alternatives 1, 2, and 3 in the Mars agenda. And when President Eisenhower was in office, he commissioned a secret society known as the Jason Society in 1955, which is considered to be a branch of Majestic 12 that Truman established while in office. Alternatives 1, 2, and 3 are 3 agendas recommended by Jason Society scholars and are related to different scenarios to prevent a possible future doomsday that is more than likely induced and not natural. These are the artificial timelines. So Armageddon is very simulated by a lot of technologies and a lot of programming, where our creative energy is enabling it because we believe in this propaganda. And it's related to, the negative ET agenda. So in 2006, they attempted to recruit me into a hidden operation regarding the alternative 3 colonization of Mars scenario. It originally started off, I believe, as a way to protect the human genome, and it got massively infiltrated. MJ-12 has their hands on the alien technology. Now it's about a breakaway civilization while they manipulate humanity to create a new world order or maybe wipe us out, And it's really not up to them. And so I decided, absolutely not. I'm like, this is where the fire really runs. I don't have to put a hole in the wall. I'm right right there with those people, running this Mars energy. We have the Mars energy. And so what does that mean? If it's a hidden Mars energy, it's a negative ego operating from behind the scenes, just like maybe a spouse cheating. It's where a negative energy from Mars is controlling humanity and keeping things secret. So it's just like the reason I'm not going is because Mars and any energy connected to it needs to be exposed so that the human race can make choices based on what we're seeing, not what we're being manipulated to believe based on all these outer facades, while our tax dollars and all our hard work is going to these hidden projects. So it's like, even though they said it's for your protection and this and this and that, it was just like, let's take care of this planet. We have technologies that can feed the hungry. There's no way I'm going to go anywhere else until this is addressed. And of course we're going to go back to the stars, but let's do it right. Let's take care of, ourselves here. Let's all these different things. So I refuse to go and have been focusing on what I call alternative 4. Funny, 1 + 3 = 4, which is 13, which is that missing number, and so it kind of fits. My charting was pre-birth, and I've always been sort of messed with plants tracking invisible weaponry on me. And 2 weeks ago, I noticed that some of that invisible weaponry was gone, and I could actually breathe for the first time. Even though I'm still talking fast, I'm actually more grounded than normal. And so alternative 4 is about connecting with the organic timeline and the divine blueprint of our incredible human potential as a unified species and as individuals. Whole, with our divine blueprint as the guiding principle, where we are working with the higher dimensional races of the cosmos and our own direct connection to spirit. We need to understand our DNA and how it connects to the stargates on this earth. So alternative 4 is like evacuating Mother Earth or running off to Mars or keeping things secret or, all these things that are going on. It's like, those are not real alternatives. What's the truth here is that, all of this is written into the script of our DNA. Let's sit around and enjoy this unfoldment and not, create these other scenarios, which is still wrapped up in the game. And so I didn't have a Project Camelot. It's just I had dreams, and I just knew, and I was prepared for my mission as a child, and I've always known my mission, and so it was pretty easy. But and so when we move into alternative 4, well, what can we grasp or what can we hang on to just assist us? We have to understand life is the teacher. In a given day, I learn more about what I need to adjust and what I need to work on than from anything else. All I need to do is observe, my own imbalances, my own screwed up relationships that might not be working, and what I can do to make it better. Each moment I have the ability to improve upon things or to take it down. That's where real change is going to happen. So we have to understand life is going to show us and reflect to us what we need to work on. We don't need a doctor to tell us. All we need to do is observe. And I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. It's but let it, be a space holder and then focus on this other stuff and then be empowered and let yourself kind of take over. To me, integrity is the spiritual path, and the body is the guide. Through our symptoms, kinesiology, our body holds wisdom. It knows what works for us and what doesn't. And we are the navigational tool we're looking for. And being a guardian to the sacred energies of life is our responsibility. Being authentic is a prerequisite to unity consciousness. So being authentic is where liberation is. If we want to be free beings, then let's do it. We don't have to wait for the world to show us that we're liberated. We need to be the leaders that say, I'm going to be a liberated being, and that's my choice. That's my vote. And hey, you can match me, you can agree or not, but we're not going to be dragged down by everybody else if they choose to be on the artificial timeline. We're moving on. So there are natural cycles when the stargates open, stellar activation cycle. We are currently in this window period while the assaults on nature and the frequency manipulations increase. Andromeda has a galactic core that spirals and connects into our Milky Way galactic core during the ascension cycle. The galactic center and the Andromeda galactic core are intersecting. This is the original core of creation. So when this whole other system came about, it's like the Milky Way sort of fell away from this oneness, and now we're coming back to it. And that's the glossary from Keylontic Science and some stuff from Lisa Renee that I pulled together. So the Melchizedeks are the genetic hosting race of this Earth's essential cycle for the last 35,000 years. As of 2009, 2012, our planet went beyond the Melchizedek universal field to prepare for the return of the 13th gate pillar of Mother Ark, the return of the goddess, the override frequency. And like I said, it's not just some figure that's just going to float out of the sky or some person that's going to emerge and say, I'm that person. It's all of us claiming it and understanding that it's already built within us. There might be people that take the helm and say, hey, we got to do this, but it's within all of us. It's not about worship. It's not about hierarchy. It's about understanding that this is our divine inheritance. We inherit stuff from our biological parents. We can either take it down a notch or we can either take it up a notch. We're doing this with what we've inherited in this human experience, and this is the time. So it is Sophia's return into matter through Mother Ark that sees the truth of the recorded hidden histories and the abusive technologies located in the planetary, solar, galactic, and universal logos. This is why the Archons inherently hate Sophia, as she can perceive what they cannot, as it is in this activated superpower that she will defeat them. So, and I remember as a kid, observing things in the world, this inner voice kept telling me, I know how to get us out of this mess. And I was just like, that's a pretty bold statement. And then I remember saying to God and the universe and Goddess, use my body, whatever you need. Use my life, whatever it takes to bring balance back to this earth. Just do whatever you need to. And I was like, oh my God, are you insane? And I'm like, okay. But I'm glad I did. So, and it was already written in the chart. There's no way to escape it. When I declared it, though, I was more grounded with, okay, mission, life, mission. Sophia, our feminine power, is the diamond heart within the earth body, and it is the body of the mother. The feminine principle needs to be grounded back into the earth body, because when not grounded, the dark mother reversals are in power, and it is the feminine enslaved and used by forces of domination and control. This is where we have the power to choose what timeline we want to be on. Seduction archetypes and the dishonoring of sacred sexuality and the New Age distorted teachings need to be addressed, as it gives people a very false sense of enlightenment and awareness. So how do we get our authenticity? It's like going into the mother womb to move past gatekeepers and controls, to restore it to the womb of regeneration and fertile creativity. True darkness, receiving the seeds of our own higher consciousness. True divine power. So the dark night of the soul, the path of discovering sacred union within. For some people, it might not take very long. For others, it might take a lot longer, depending on the energetic real estate you wish to try and help to transmute. Sometimes it's not always about our own personal journey. When I was in the underworld for 22 years and I wrote a book about it, I knew it wasn't just about me. It was my agreement with Gaia to complete and help personify the Venus transits to basically die and be reborn again. I got a reading done. I was at a clairvoyant institute for 2 years, and they said, and they were all in agreement, you've died. The only thing that kept you alive was your kundalini. You went through the gateways of death and hell and came back to the body without losing the body. But for 20 years, I had to, with all my might, keep my physical body here. And it took so much for my physical body not to say, I'm coming with you. It's like, no, stay here because she's going to come back. And it's like, so the good news, and I'm almost done because I know my time is up. As we talk about all this, we have to understand that this is actually happening cosmically in the sky. So when we're dealing with the inverted pentagram and the domination of physicality over us by the Illuminati, well, the goddess journey and what she has done by sort of bringing her consciousness into the Venus planet as the energy of love to merge with Mars, to bring the ego in alignment with the heart, astronomers and astrologers have followed the orbit of Venus, and it draws a perfect pentagram in the sky and has been for thousands of years, which follows the trail of going into the underworld and back up again and over again to the point where it forms a sacred geometry of a rose. So this is what's happening in the sky. So when we kind of freak out or feel a little bit lost about it, just remember that this energy is already happening. Especially if you come out of this talk and you're like, some of the stuff she shared hit a chord, but still confused. Just take a deep breath. It's already happening. When we sit against a tree and just breathe and just allow the energies to flow through us, and we just pull out the weeds and the splinters of all these controls and conditionings, and not allow ourselves to be ruled by insecurity or arrogance, and just find, just a place of that nothingness, that 0 point energy, we'll recognize that it's already been done. It's already written into the script. All we need to do is show up and say, okay, I'm present with this. I'm a part of this. This is who I am. And the minute we say that, we are on that timeline. The minute we distract ourselves and think that Hillary Clinton's going to help us, I swear to God, it's like I don't know what to say anymore. But it's happening. So we don't have to strategize and make it all complex. Just face the stuff as it comes up. Purge. We know to throw up when we eat bad food, but we don't know how to release the mental crap or the emotional crap very easily. So be real with the process. No matter how out of whack you seem, you'll return to balance. There's monsoons happening in parts of the world. There's fires happening. It's like nature knows how to create equilibrium, but not through suppression, through the freedom to be wild. And then that order of the web of life and just the intelligence of nature and how it all functions, steps in. And we are like the web of life on a soul level. Diversity and harmony is oneness. We have to respect each other, but it's going to be difficult if we're not being authentic. We're going to be in competition. We're going to be, trying to enforce our opinions on others. My whole message is about empower yourself. It's all within you. There's nothing that I have except to remind you of that. And just some things, this is my favorite slide that ever happened to me. It's just like, yes, To see the sacred geometry pattern happening is proof that we are ascending and this is happening. It's just we have to allow our physical bodies to do this. So finally, the physical being is becoming aware that they are the consciousness tool that can open stargates and thereby direct this consciousness power. It is all internally accessed. Being authentic is the I've said that so many times because let's just hit the point home. Our DNA connects directly to the stargates on Earth. The mind control is how to distract and divert us, and wars throughout history are designed pretty much to conquer and divide us, so that in this period we're in, we're not unifying. We're still holding resentments about what happened in the Second World War, the Civil War, and it's embedded into like us as, the way we relate to one another. We got to drop all that and recognize the hidden technologies, the dark agendas, the pawns that have been played, and how it's all been strategically designed so that in this window period, we wouldn't be uniting. We would be further fragmented and fractured and completely controlled, and that's not happening. Final slide. We are made up of all the archetypes and dimensions and aspects of creation. Return to the mother-father where the balance of life is held by discovering the inner unity that is encoded in us. Check yourself for implants. Heal soul fractures and protect yourself. Take it upon yourself to say, let me just get myself checked. It's like, and they used to talk about that with venereal, all these diseases. It's like, a lot of that is programming based on how it distorts our viewpoint about certain things and traps us into something that locks us into something that our body is programmed by. If you're going to check yourself for anything, I would check for implants, soul fractures, and really protect yourself. You are the temple. Guard yourself of all invasion and purify the negative ego. Allow yourself to, be humble enough in relationship to see where you can change and create, harmony. We're musical instruments and free energy technology. Make sure your instrument's in tune. So we can play beautiful music together. Because those codes that we release and send out because of this, if we do that, is what's going to invite the rest of humanity to join us. The earth responds to us. All the stuff that we're seeing, when we do this, we'll start to heal. When we clear our own internal elements, the earth has no choice but to match it. But we are just as filled up with toxic stuff as what we see outside of us. We can take the initiative and clear it by raising our consciousness and frequency. That is global alchemy. And this is the path of Venus. And this is our heart chakra. This is our masculine and feminine. It's all within. And yay us. We're doing it. Thank you.